Hi, welcome back to Trikai Psychology. So it's probably going to be the last video that I make on this topic. I hope, anyway. I haven't made it before because I was not feeling well, but I really did want to make this video because I've broken down some key things that I've observed in Akaash's wife's behavior and demeanor that I think indicate certain things about her personality. And it's a bit of a psychological breakdown. I do also want to say that I do wish these two individuals well. I hope that they improve, in their relationship dynamic. I really do hope that for both of them. But do I think that their dynamic is full of problems that I am concerned that it's heading down a road that could be disastrous? Unfortunately, I have to say yes. I hope I'm wrong. But I'm going to break some things down. One of the things that I noticed was that there is a key thread, a theme that runs through Akaash's wife's conduct, behavior, personal traits, and that is selfishness and, actually there's two, emotional disconnection. Selfishness and emotional disconnection. Emotional disconnection could be a result of trauma. Disassociation is a result of trauma. So I think there could be some element there. But having that in combination with selfishness is quite a problematic combination. And I think this is what's led to the issues that we have here, as well as Akaash not being assertive with his boundaries. So the first display of this selfishness and lack of emotional connection is this whole narrative of being a gold digger. So I have gone to Young Don's video because he did a really great bit here. So let's play.
Asked whether or not she is a gold digger, here is what Jasleen had to say.
Do you consider yourself a good gold digger?
Yeah.
Well, I think that settles that, right? Jasleen still defines herself as a gold digger, but she says that she's a good gold digger, right? Because she invested early on before Akaash was rich. But all you have to do is listen to her podcast and her podcast's co-host talk about money to know that without a shadow of a doubt, the most important thing to her when it came to choosing a man, or when it comes to recommending how you should choose a man, is money.
This is not a two-way street. This is a one-way street. His money is our money, and my money is my money. Because as women, we aren't really that capable of handling stress to that degree that maybe men are. Because of our hormonal cycles, we need more sleep, we need more rest. If my husband and I don't work out, knock on wood, that'll never happen. I am financially free. Like, I can go do it. I have my own bank account, my own money. Like, I'm good.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take half his shit. I'm going to take all his shit.
Yeah, I didn't sign a prenup, so I feel like I'm okay too.
Me too. So I'm like, you do shit to me, I take shit.
Yeah, so let that be a lesson. Do not sign a prenup.
So I guess
No prenup and a joint bank account. Go fuck yourself. God forbid, I want to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Provided for. I don't want to do waste management like me. I want someone to do that for me.
success and money are important if you're looking for that. If you're all about love, go for it. Go for it.
If you're in your 20s and you're listening to this and you're going through this, it's going to be okay. But like, try to find someone rich while you're there.
Get quality care for your skin because it will affect you in the long term.
Yeah, or date a rich guy.
Yeah.
Pay for it.
If I could be a wealthy man.
Wow. What sane man would ever marry a woman who thinks and speaks like this? Of course, money is important. It's very important, actually, but it's not that important. It's like a guy who marries a woman first and foremost, primarily because of how she looks. It's a recipe for disaster, probably because she thinks a lot about divorcing Akaash.
Year-old stay-at-home wife, and I obviously post a lot of aspirational content, but I wouldn't be keeping it real if I also didn't say that a part of me isn't a little terrified that my husband could like wake up one day and just change his mind, and then my whole life would change. So if you are going into a relationship where that's your goal, I just want to make it clear that you do have to consider that decision very carefully, of giving up your ability to fend for yourself and basically depending on another human being. And I know a lot of women do make that choice, and I'm obviously being one of them. And I will say, like, there's a difference between stay-at-home wife and stay-at-home girlfriend, because as a wife, I have like a marriage contract in place. So I do have like some security guaranteed by like the United States law. And I have an amazing husband, don't get me wrong, but human beings, like, they change. They're wired to make mistakes. And I just, like, you never know what the future holds. And so it's like, it's a scary thing to think, but I think that's why I just want to lay it all out there. That's of course something that like goes through my mind. And he's also in the entertainment industry. And guess what? There's hoes in the entertainment industry. Like, there are women who purposely try to break up a marriage or who purposely try to target men with money.
If you're in your 20s and you're listening to this and you're going through this, it's going to be okay. But like, try to find someone rich while you're there.
And that's not just on like them, that's also like on the men too.
Narrative number 2.
Yeah, so that was a really great kind of clip, really showing her natural, free-flowing thoughts on money, women needing to find a man with money, and then her worry and concern about her not being financially stable in case Akaash were to, fumble and the marriage would end. But I think that people often think about what other people think in a way that they think. And so this is why I think that that was a little bit of a self-disclosure, that actually she might be thinking, maybe I will make a mistake. Maybe I will be a human being and make a mistake and potentially, right, leave the marriage. And where's my financial freedom? Where's my financial dependency going to be if I don't have Akaash? The reason why this is sad and problematic for young minds is because it's not setting a good example of what a good marriage and a good relationship should be dependent on. The clips of them on the podcast as well, it's not fostering a narrative of how do you make a marriage that you have, you've committed to somebody. How do you make that more solid, the foundations of that marriage more dependable? How do you foster and build a sense of trust when two people in a partnership have agreed to have their life in a certain way financially, where one person makes the money and the other person stays at home? They also bang on about finding a man with money, but then what are they doing on the balance of that relationship? They talk about not doing anything. I mean, especially Akaash's wife, she doesn't do anything. She doesn't cook. She doesn't clean. So it's all one way. And I think that this is problematic for society, if I'm honest with you. I think those two individuals, those young women, haven't actually figured out who they are. There's something also in their podcast, which is very Alex Cooper, Call Her Daddy podcast style. And when I see somebody copying somebody else, very literally, it shows to me that they don't know who they are, right? It shows to me that they haven't really understood their own identity. And so it appears as they are trying to rip off something very popular, talking about things that can get them clickbaits. It's like clickbait content. And that indicates to me that they really are interested in fame, viewers, money. And of course, they're disclosing that themselves because they're trying to get financially free. So they're not dependent on the husbands that they chased down who had the money. It's quite a catch-22. There's an emotional disconnect when your content is very heavily focused on what you can obtain in the marriage financially. Where is the emotional connection in regards to your marriage and your connection with your partner? When somebody is focused on material acquisition, selfish material acquisition, and they're disconnected from how what they do impacts other people. There is no end to what human beings will do. And this is what we find with narcissists and psychopaths, that they will absolutely do anything to obtain what they want. And that will come at a cost of crushing and destroying people in their way, even their loved ones. And now I'm not saying that she's a narcissist or she's a psychopath, though many people in the comments have called her a narcissist. I'm not here to diagnose, and that would be irresponsible of me to do so. But there's definitely traits of selfishness and a lack of empathy. Another thing that I noticed was that she was called out on the internet for her behavior. It's almost like the public had shown to her the boundaries that she crossed within her own marriage. But she had been making this content way before some of these blew up on the internet. And where was the empathy and the hindsight at that point? Why was it that only when she was called out publicly did she take notice? And I sort of saw that on the Flagrant podcast, she showed more embarrassment and, yeah, I would say embarrassment rather than an empathy for Akaash and an apologetic tone towards Akaash. And that is a bit of a red flag. If you are in a relationship that the individual only takes some accountability, she doesn't even take full accountability because she blames or she holds Akaash's comedic style as responsible for her own choice of words. So she doesn't take full accountability at all. But if you're in a partnership where the behavior has to go to extreme lengths and for other people to get involved to show the person that they're treating you disrespectfully, and then they don't take full responsibility and they blame and they sidestep, that is a red flag. That is a massive red flag. So I'm going to go to the bit where she blames Akaash or holds Akaash's comedy as responsible for her own choice of words. So let's play that clip.
The fuck was that joke? 'Cause I think for a lot of people, myself included, like I saw that and I was like, why would she even joke around about that?
Yeah.
With Akaash there, and like, what was the backstory to that?
Now looking back, like it's been pointed out to me, and I get that. I feel like for us, I think
I want to pause it there because she said, now looking back. Have you ever been in a situation where you have really put your foot in it? Maybe you've said something and you instantly feel you have a conscience and you self-reflect and think, was that the right thing to do? Was that not the right thing to do? And being conscientious, is on a sliding scale, right? This is why you have narcissists and psychopaths on one end and, overly conscientious people and overly agreeable people on the other end, which I think Akaash is, and Jasleen is on the other end. But the more conscientiousness you have, the quicker that you are to, be aware of the impact that you have on other people. And this is why I say that I think Jasleen has this disconnect, this emotional disconnect, that she's not able to have that foresight and even lacks the hindsight independently to think about the impact of her words, the impact of her actions. And this is why people think that she is abusive. This is why people think that she's a narcissist. This is why people think that this is hugely problematic for Akaash. Of her own accord, she hasn't been able to understand and think that that was so out of line and that may have hurt my husband.
I learned so much of my humor from Akaash.
Wow. Wow, man. Bravo. Wow. She managed to blame Akaash for why she said that she wanted to fuck her friend's husband. It's actually Akaash's fault for influencing her with his style of comedy. Why she even said it in the first place. Bro, I have never seen gaslighting so masterfully and effortlessly executed.
That was amazingly put. That really was amazingly put. Like I was talking about in my other video, that Akaash may just be that frog in the slowly boiling water. He doesn't even know that he's about to die. And this is how subtle, right? Selfish people can manipulate and disrespect you in a relationship, that you don't even realize that the tables have been turned and you get blamed for something. This is quite key. And this is where I talk about that emotional disconnection. She's not able to see, to have empathy, to think about the impact of what she says and what she does on the people around her, the people that she loves. So this was her excusing herself. And then I'm going to go to the podcast where she actually talks about this. And the reason why I'm actually pulling this up is because I believe who she is and how she is on her own podcasts and on her own TikTok videos, because the body language is very comfortable. The words flow very easily and effortlessly. There's no incongruence and there's no tension in the body. But in the Flagrant podcast, there's tension. There is definite tension. If you were to watch this, I don't have any clips actually pulled up to show this, but she displays a lot of trying smiles. I can say where, oh, that's a good clip actually to pause on. She's not really smiling, but she's trying to smile. She's put on the spot. She has a more uncomfortable demeanor about her body language. Whereas on this podcast, she's very easygoing, very free flowing. So let's see if I can pull this clip up.
Priya, would y'all ever have an orgy together with your husband? Priya, I'm actively trying to have an orgy.
So do you see that there was congruence between both women, that they were in agreement, that this co-host was saying, oh, she's tried, and Jasleen is saying, I've been trying. So this doesn't look scripted because it's spontaneous. They're in agreement. There's obviously some pre-conversation that's happened where there's been this dialogue going on where she's wanting to have, I guess, this open intimacy with the other couple.
This couple is so fucking good looking, and you haven't seen Nav yet, but wait till you fucking see him. His body goes crazy. His face card always slays, never declines. And it's kind of weird because I'm talking about your husband. That kind of likes it, but I'm like, us for it? Okay, maybe. I just know that Nav's dick is like at least 10 inches.
Yeah, so crass. But you can see how comfortable she is. And in my previous video, I talked about incongruence, that there was an incongruence with her in the Flagrant podcast. But when she is talking on her own podcast, look at the ease in her body language and the flow of what she says. And this is a common theme in her personal videos. She's actually quite good at talking. This free flowing, very confident. And that's the discrepancy that I was sort of showing. So the other reason why I brought this topic up again was because in the Flagrant podcast, her and Akaash decide, and they do a high five in agreement, that she is fine now, as of that conversation, with him having a happy ending after a massage. And I found it quite interesting that they decided there and then, which indicates to me that they haven't discussed the boundaries of intimacy in their marriage or in their relationship, because they just decided it then and there. And that's problematic. And also because Jasleen has a perspective that sexual intercourse or intimacy can just be purely physical with no emotional content within it, indicates to me that her desire to be with her co-host's husband is a true reflection of her desire. It's not a bit, it's not a comedy skit, it's not a joke. I think that this is her perspective on sexual intimacy. She's okay with her husband, you know, being touched by another woman. And so therefore, equally, she should be okay being touched by another man. And many people have open relationships, open marriage, or polygamous marriages. That happens in the world. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is that, again, it's the lack of emotional connection and the selfishness on many levels. One, I don't think that this is even being discussed within the marriage, because this comes across like these are her off-the-cuff statements, and Akaash looks very uncomfortable. Jasleen and Akaash haven't defined the boundaries within their relationships, and research shows that even within open marriages, you have ground rules, you have boundaries of what's expected and what both people are agreeing to. But Akaash and his wife don't seem to have their boundaries really clear. And I do think that this is a real desire of hers, because research also shows that people that want open relationships and open marriages, they often have the view, the attitude that it's a way for them to have less demand on them. And this is something that Jasleen says in the Flagrant podcast, that he can be touched by another woman because it's less work for me. Now, the problem is that these two women are on a podcast talking about things to young, impressionable people without really understanding the implications of what they're saying. Open marriages, the stats actually show that those in open marriages don't last as long as those in monogamous marriages. It also shows that there's high amounts of jealousy, high amounts of conflict in open marriages. And so to have a podcast where you're just off the cuff for the clicks and for the views, for your financial security, making statements that are going to be impressionable to other young individuals, I think is irresponsible, personally. And this is why I highlight this is an example of her characteristic traits of being selfish and disconnected emotionally. Again, where's the foresight? Are you thinking about what I'm saying and the impact that I'm having on others, the society, other young women, my husband? No. But what's happening is I can say whatever I want, be hyperbolic for the clicks, for the views, for the fame, for the money. And I know people that have had open marriages, not because they wanted it, but because they wanted to keep the other person in the marriage to them. So they opened it up, but they wanted a more traditional marriage. And research shows that these types of relationships have increased levels of stress. Of course, right? Because there's disharmony. One person wants one thing and the other person wants something else. I predict that if this is the road that Jasleen actually wants to go down, I think Akaash seems to be the more traditional person. And this relationship already seems like it has high conflict, high stress. And so this way in which she's conducted herself, and I think being quite honest with what she's saying on her podcast, could be a slippery slope, could be a very slippery slope. The honesty and the congruence that she shows when she's talking about her co-host's husband indicates that she probably is attracted to him. But as I said before, is this okay for society? How does this impact other young women? How does this impact other couples? Oh, is it okay just to kind of say, okay, well, let's just have an orgy? There are implications to this. There's actual research that shows that those that engage in open relationships have a less likelihood of surviving as a marriage, as a couple. I'm going to show you some other examples of these characteristic traits: selfishness, a lack of emotional connection. I'm going to go to the part where she puts down Akaash, and this is pretty hard to watch because he really does seem like a good guy.
Akaash used to tip yellow cabs $1.
I do that too. I
But
still do that.
Yeah, that's a New York City thing. It's a.
How the fuck would you know? You grew up in Dallas.
I lived here 18 years now.
Oh,
I know.
18.
No, the one place I tip.
Yeah, the little put downs, and of course, you know, the infamous discussion.
Two very different.
Okay.
I'm a hustler who scams a little bit. I'm not a scammer
I'm
who
not
hustles.
gonna lie, that was sexy, and that's why I'm actively trying to have an orgy.
Wait, he used to sell like iPhones, buy iPhones.
Yeah, Akash's face was looking down, looking away, smiling, but it was more of a trying smile. Yeah.
Sell-
Yeah. Discomfort, looking away, looking down. You know, the hands very tight,
Sell
uncomfortable.
iPhone.
Uncomfortable. So yeah, there are a number of times where she's putting him down. Again, the empathy, the lack of the empathy. And finally, when she talks about some assault story, which I'm not going to play, but there's definitely a lack of emotional connection with what she's saying. But I'm going to show you another clip that I think is just so much more problematic.
To the open bar, I get my usual like gin and tonic, and then like all of a sudden my heart started palpitating. I started feeling like faint, like dizzy, like I needed to lie down. So I'm like, maybe I just didn't get enough of the dose because I was still fine. But the next day I got like really sick. I had a high fever and like all this stuff. And it was just like so weird.
That's so scary. Because
And like someone told me that happens after you take roofies, you get really sick.
no, and also I think during that time of the time that you're talking about is like date rape culture was really high.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've heard about the nail polish, that the nail polish, you can put it in your drink, and if it turns a different color, that means your drink is spiked.
Oh.
And so a lot of women or young girls at this point are using that in their drinks instead of painting their nails and going
Or they
out.
have like
Okay, so that was a really great point. Really useful. How great for young women to stay safe to know about that. But it doesn't go there.
Exactly. But you're not gonna go to a club and be like, hold on 1 second, let me just bust this. At least with the nail, you can do it slowly.
what if I don't like that color?
That's what I was thinking too. It's not for me, but to other people.
It's like, to be honest, it's not worth it to me. Like, I'm not gonna like pick an ugly color for my nails. I would rather get roofie.
I mean, that's quite a statement to make, right? When date rape and rehypnol is so dangerous for young men and women. To say something like that and to laugh it off and not even come back and correct it, that's what's even more alarming. She doesn't even come back and correct it and say, no, on a serious note, that's really great. And where can I get that? And where can we promote those types of products for young women? Again, selfishness, because, and they've clipped this into a short clip, like it's funny. It's just not funny. And again, this is why I talk about the selfishness and the lack of empathy, the lack of emotional connection, the lack of forethought. What is the impact of what I'm saying? But if I'm only thinking of, I just want to make views, I just want to make money, then of course you're not going to care. You're not going to care. Again, because when human beings are only focused on what they can gain and they don't have the empathy, they don't have the emotionality, and they have high levels of selfishness, people will do anything. People will do anything. They will destroy the people around them. They will not care what they put out into society because they are only focused on what they can gain. So I'm going to end there. Thank you so much for watching. It's probably going to be my last video on this topic. But thank you so much for your comments and your encouragement as well on my videos and my perspective on things. And yeah, I'll be back with another video. All right. Take care. Bye.